works. And we got all our guys?
Yep, go for it.
All right. So what we're doing is we're going to recertify on flagging. Try and make it as painless as possible. In the past, this will be the last time that we use this particular format. In June, I had to take a research for myself, and there's a whole new format, whole new video, hopefully slideshow, so on and so forth. In the past, there have been questions about the test. Some of the questions were kind of sketchy, so what I did was I went through the manual and I matched the information that they were asking to the test. So we're going to do the test at the end. We'll just all do it at the same time. So they like to play word games, so I've got that squared away. And everybody knows where the bathrooms are. Right down here, take a right.
Took me 10 minutes to find you guys.
Well, a good son would have met you at the door, but I'm just saying. All right, I'm gonna turn my back to you because I can. Not because I'm rude. Or can everybody see that? I mean, is it too bright with
The bald head?
too bright with the lights? I can move too.
Willie.
I'm not worried about that. Matter of fact, you bring brings a good point. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
All right, does that cut down on the glare?
A lot now.
All right. Cell phone's on stun. Told you where everything else was. Emergency exits, because I'm the safety guy now. The emergency exits are located out the door, to the left, down the stairs, and we needed gas pumps, which is being revisited
Okay, hold on.
if there's a fire alarm.
There's a fire alarm. Go right.
You can, but that door's closer.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doug Doobie was down there saying, go that way.
It's because he was fired.
He was the fire.
He just said that there's a fire
He's
alarm.
police, but that's all right.
Stay on task, fellas.
It's good. Go out to the gas pumps, the fire alarm goes off, please. What's wrong with that picture? Everybody knows, we've seen it. What's wrong with the picture?
Exposure's off.
Exposures was pretty dark.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
Is she
Again,
at an intersection?
Is that the sign after him?
the sign is after the flagger. And it doesn't make any sense. Should say flagger on your left. No signs at all. We're gonna fly through these. We're not gonna take 4 hours to research it. When you're done, you're gonna know why flagging is important. You're gonna understand the NETCD. Most importantly, traffic zone control, the areas, and how to set up the signs if they're needed at all. Get the proper gear to do the job. Right location, position, how to handle a paddle. And if you don't have a paddle, how to use a flag, which we have downstairs in the cabinet. If we absolutely positively needed them, but we shouldn't. How to recognize the psychos from the people that'll actually do things you ask of them. How to set up a package. Alternative methods. Communicating with other flaggers. And we're not going to do that one because we don't deal with all road operations. You're supposed to go to a 4-hour training course, pass an 80 or higher, and we don't do skills demonstration. And you research every 2 years. So the basics of flagger safety is protecting yourself, protecting you, your workers, and then the public. That's the order. You, your workers, and then the public. Those are your priorities. Protecting yourself. You want to make sure that you're visible. Means you have all your proper PPE on, which we'll get into. Make sure that you're not stuck up against a guardrail or up against a Jersey barrier. If somebody came through and you needed to get out of the way, keep yourself an out. At nighttime, you want to make sure that you're lit up properly so that people are seeing you and not being blinded. Again, daytime, you're not in the shadows, not hidden by the background. So again, if you have a vehicle next to you or something, you're not being hidden by the vehicle. You're not allowed to bring personal vehicles out there with you so you can turn the radio on, listen to that while you're flagging. And you need to be separated from the work activities. People need to make sure, people need to see you as traffic control as opposed to the construction going on. You need to be two separate entities. You can't be confused. You don't mingle with the crew. When you're out there flagging, it's a lonely job. It sounds dramatic, I'm sorry, but it just is. You're by yourself, you're talking with the other flagger if there's a flagger, otherwise you're on your own. You never leave your post, never ever, because if you do that, people are just gonna take traffic into their own hands, the general public, and that never works out for anybody. Never turn your back on traffic. When you have traffic stopped, keep eye contact with that first vehicle. If you have to turn your back to attend to something or look at the other flag or whatever, make sure that there's a communication, some kind of, you good? Yeah, okay, just stay right there. And no sitting down on a job, because that refers to the driving motorist that if you're sitting down, you're not the flagger. I love these guys I've seen. They cut a hole in the cone, put the post in the cone, and sit there and just turn it. That's some of it's pride, some of it's how you look as a company or public works, and some of it's just making sure you do the job correctly. As far as protecting yourself with PPE, personal protective equipment, Class 2 vest for the daytime, Class 3 vest. We'll go a little bit further into this, but Class 3 for nighttime, steel-toed shoes, which is our rule. And headgear, something a couple of years ago they came up with, you can't have a hat, you have to have the helmet. And the reason they want you to have the helmet on is because some vehicles like dump trucks or other vehicles, falling debris, stuff coming off the trucks could hit you. So you have to wear your helmet.
Are you supposed to be far enough away that you're separated from that though? No, you just.
You gotta have your helmet.
Yep, they're still driving past.
It's a state law. What vest is that? What type of vest? Is that 2 or 3?
2.
Why? What makes it a Class 3?
No sleeve. And it's orange.
I'll give you the orange. Yeah, you can use orange, but a lot of people don't anymore, and a lot of it's the yellow, the fluorescent green yellow. More importantly, for our purposes, Class 3 means 2 things: vest and pants, and the vest has sleeves on it. And the reason the vest has to have sleeves on it, it's at nighttime. They want a car to come around, light you up, the reflective stripes on your clothing, and be able to discern you as a human figure. So they want to see the arm stripes, they want to see the leg stripes, they want to see the torso. If you don't have the sleeves, you're just going to see the torso and the legs. So Class 3 needs to include, for nighttime, needs to include sleeved vests and pants. Protecting yourself from the elements in this kind of weather. Make sure you're warm, because you're going to be standing in one place for a long time, theoretically. Just take care of yourself, use some common sense. If it's hot weather, sunscreen, make sure you're hydrated, bug spray if you need it. Fingers, toes, and ears are a big thing in the cold weather because you're not moving around. Those are the small parts of your anatomy that are going to get cold first. You're focusing on your job. You're not using AM/FMs. You're not using your cell phone. You're not using iPods. You're not using a chair. You're not reading the books, magazines. Again, you can't bring your personal vehicle over and turn on a car radio. You're doing nothing but traffic control. He's got his little stand here, which I guess that's okay because it gives you all those things you need if you need them in a hurry. Personally, I think I'd have that off to the side. If you have drivers that are not playing the game, don't let them get you stirred up. Hardest thing in the world. It's easier to sit here and say than it is to do, but, you know, keep a smile. Whatever they got to say isn't, it's not that it's not important, but you have a job to do. They don't understand that. They don't want to understand that. All they want to know is how they're going to get from here to there now. So keep a smile, courteous but firm. Don't get in their face. Don't get in their area. Don't walk up to the car. If they get out of the car,
Craig Plum used to.
yeah, don't be a Craig Plum.
That was.
Screaming, yelling. If a driver refuses to obey, if you're asking somebody to stop and they don't want to stop, you know, get his license plate. Don't jump in front of the car and be a hero. Try and get the license plate, pen and paper, pencil and paper on yourself to write down. Let everybody know, if this person is insistent on going through and it's going to cause a problem, make sure everybody knows. You know, we got those air horns downstairs, just sit on that thing. Because everybody's going to look at you and they're going to figure out, oh look, some dumbass is coming through. They're not listening to what we ask them to do, so everybody else can keep themselves safe. And then we can always call the cops afterwards. If you get the license plate, make them out of the car, it's like towing one in the winter. If we get that information, the cops can take it from there and they can ticket a person on that. They can. So anyways, remain professional, don't let them stir you up. Between the two of you, if there's two flaggers, or even the flaggers and the work crew. So first of all, between the flaggers, radio or hand signals, I know typically we wave the sign, hey, I'm going to turn mine, okay, or whatever you decide you want to work out. You want to use NFL signs or Major League or whatever works for you, as long as you know that it's stop in one direction and slow in the other and not the same ever in both directions. We have those two little, we have those little Motorola radios downstairs. They work real well. Again, we have a couple of these. I don't know if they're still charged or not, but we do have them. And they're for emergencies only. If you play with them all the time and people get conditioned to hearing them, they're not going to pay attention when it's important to pay attention. When everybody as a worker or a flagger, if you're a flagger and you're not pressing that horn and you hear it, make your traffic stop. Bring everything to a stop. If you're the workers in the work zone and you hear that horn go off, you're stopping what you're doing and you're looking in the general direction of where that horn just came off. Because if there's something coming at you, you need to get out of the way. You know, just be aware of it. Pretty much everything I just said. Protect yourself, warn the other flaggers, try to prevent other vehicles from getting in the work zone. License plate, make and model, notify supervisor, whoever's in charge of that work site, going to be the supervisor. If it turns into something more serious, God forbid, but if it does, I mean, the city of South Burlington in its history has had flaggers hit and injured. Immediately get on the radio, call PD. Any other thought? Did I miss anything? I'm not going to ask you if I'm talking too much because I just do that. But I took my medication this morning. How about you, Bill? You're the man.
I'm here
Okay.
to learn, not talk, Jake.
You're the
Wow.
man. I know. He did take his pills. I love it.
Hey Adam, can we bring Jay more on?
Video remember.
Okay, so like I said, protecting the traveling public. So you're making eye contact with the drivers of the vehicles that you're stopping or you're telling to proceed in a certain direction, look them in the eye, make sure your communications are slow and clear, you know, stop, not, yeah, hey, you know, like this or that way, don't be sloppy with it. Okay, cut that out. Why don't we want a truck? Why would you not want to have a truck as a first vehicle in line when you have traffic stopped?
Slow.
Hard to see past it.
Because, yes, the vehicles behind that truck can't see. All they know is there's a truck stopped. I don't know why, I don't know where it's written, but apparently somewhere it's written that if there's a truck stopped in the middle of the road, you should immediately turn to the left, get in oncoming traffic, and drive by it. It's written down somewhere because people do it. I don't. It's like when you have a traffic barrel or a stop bar or something, just get in that left-hand lane and head for the oncoming traffic. It blocks the view of everybody else. And then they travel more slowly. So yeah, if you did have a truck first, besides blocking everybody else's view, it's going to take him theoretically 3 or 4 vehicles time to get through that intersection where, you know, 3 or 4 vehicles could have gone through already. Planning ahead is, if you know you're going to be doing work in the middle of a busy intersection, Swift and Spears, Swift and Dorset, something like that, besides setting up your package and making sure you guys are all set, it's not a bad idea, and probably should be practiced regularly, to contact the PD so that the fire department knows, or ambulance crew, so that if they have to go that way, they're in their mindset, they know they're going to come across you guys, and it just makes for better communication and a better process. Gets them through they may be able to get around you and go a different way. They'll tell their shifts all day long. They're digging at Swift and Dorset, go another way. You as a flagger, when you hear a siren, start looking. Which way is it coming from? And how many of them? Is it just the ambulance? Is it just a cruiser? It seems like you're thinking a whole lot of things, but it helps you plan for when that vehicle or those vehicles get to you. Because you're, you know, well, how many cars do I have here? Okay, can I get them off to the side and let them through? Because anytime an emergency vehicle approaches you, code 3, like a siren, they have the right of way still, but they are subject to you. You have control of that intersection. So everybody has to stop because you said so, and they won't move. The emergency vehicles will not continue through just because they can. They will look at you as the say-so.
Is there a proper procedure on how to clear the traffic for oncoming emergency vehicles?
The only proper procedure, Mike, that is in the book or that I've ever run into is if you can physically see the emergency vehicle coming at you,
Yeah.
that's the time you want to figure out in your mind or with the other flagger, what are we going to do with the traffic that's going? If your vehicles are stopped, keep them stopped, because the emergency vehicles can go around them. If the other guy has traffic flowing but has a lot of it, he needs to stop it so we can clear that intersection. If he's only got 3 or 4 cars, he can stop. You know, have you both in stop position, if you will, but let that traffic flow go through. You know, why make a mess when you can just clear it out on its own and then let them through? But that's why you're kind of pre-planning. How many vehicles do I have in the middle of the intersection? Who's running right now? And how much more traffic is there behind them? Everything needs to stop so they can go around. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I can just see, you know, bad things happening because some people hear the sirens and they just, oh my God, what do I do?
Well, that's why we're here today, to help you plan what to do. There's 2 of you too. Generally, when you're flagging, there are 2 of you.
Yeah.
So if the other person is a little confused, don't be afraid to get on the radio and say, hey, Mike, What should we do right now? Because one of you is gonna have more experience, and between the two of you, you can figure this out. It's not rocket science. Again, to answer your question, stop all approaching vehicles, including the emergency vehicle. They know. Emergency vehicle operators are aware of this course or this part of the course. They know when they come across a construction site, they have to follow the rules like everybody else. Wait for everybody else. Wait for the previously released vehicles to clear the travel space. Let the emergency vehicles through, and then give the fire truck and the ambulance, 10, 15 seconds to get out of there before you let everybody go again. Bicyclists, we don't have a lot of problem with bicyclists here in South Burlington. I haven't experienced a lot of it. Generally, they will, because I see the looks, they will stay with the flow of traffic. If there's cars, they tend to stay with the cars. You will get people who think, I'm a bicycle, I can just go through here. Again, just like with a car, you don't have to confront them, but you can just, excuse me, could I get you to stop, or could you just farther over? Please and thank you. By law, if they're riding the road, they are subject to the same rules and regulations as a motor vehicle. By law.
So much down.
Enforcing, that's a different thing. Holding bikes with the vehicles. This says to hold bikes till all the cars have gone through. That's what the book says. My personal experience is those bikes are a lot faster than those cars are. So get them out of there. My experience is get the bikes out of there, let them go. Now you have the cars again, and you're not mixing the traffic up and stuff. And you don't have to listen to the bikers complaining, because again, they didn't take this course. They don't understand you have to wait because the book says.
That pedestrians and bikes are by themselves.
Yep.
Hang on, Jake, we got a water break. Go ahead.
Good work. Go ahead, Jake.
So, with pedestrians and or wheelchair, blind, any ADA, Americans with disabilities, I'm talking about sidewalks or escorting, not the flagger, but having somebody assist people who need help through an area if there's no separate path. So if we block off a sidewalk, but there's no other place for these people to go, just somebody in the work zone, if you see them, can I give you a hand, ma'am? Or can I help you, sir? Get them around the area so they don't get in the way or hurt, and then let them go. You return, not the flagger. The flagger stays in the road. Putting signs, your street signs on the sidewalks blocks the sidewalk. And this one, you can't even, as a driver, you wouldn't see it way over here. And this slide is saying those aren't sidewalk closed signs. Did I miss anything? Anybody want to tell war stories? Okay. This is your MUTCD. You're going to hear that term over and over and over again through the rest of your life, no matter what you do. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Basically, this is the federal government's idea of what we should be doing. I meant to bring it up and I forgot. Downstairs in Greg and my office, there's a 3-ring binder about that thick with all of the MUTCD ordinances and stuff in there, rules and regulations. Each chapter talks about things This class is a makeup of 3 chapters: signs, flaggers, and temporary traffic control, which they condensed into these little books, which I had a bunch of them, and I had them in the 1 tons and so on. I still got some downstairs. If anybody wants one, you're welcome to it, or you want to put them back in the trucks again, I've got some downstairs. If you have questions, they're a good source to go to. There's also an app now, and I was playing with it a little bit last night. I'm not comfortable enough to share it with anybody, but if you'd like to, if anybody wants to know about it, there's an app you can put on your phone where you feed in the coordination of where you are. So if you're at Swift and Spear, you can feed in, Swift Street, Spear Street intersection with a zip code, and the app will suggest what you need for a package, depending on what you're doing and where you're working. Again, it came up with stuff I was looking up, and I downloaded it. It's free, but I haven't used it yet. So if anybody wants to, and you got time, something to think about. It's just another resource you can use if it pans out. One of the sheets I handed out is your daily traffic control plan. So when you have a package set up, whether it's just your typical 6 signs or it's something complex, we should get, I tried to when I was foreman. I won't say I was real good at it, but I did make an attempt to fill this out. And some of those, you'll notice is some have a grid on the back, some of them on the back side, some of them don't. They're supposed to, but I hit the wrong button when I was printing them out. If you don't, I'll get you a better one if you really want one. But long story short, fill in the blanks on this side, turn it around on the graph side, with or without the graph, draw a picture. If and when OSHA shows up, and if they show up and you've got 4 cones on your taper instead of 5, rest assured they'll pull over. And this is what they're gonna wanna see. Where's your control plan? It's not rocket science, and there is no right or wrong. Just fill in the blanks as best as you can. If you're making an attempt, they can't fault you. You're making an attempt, you're doing the best you can. But fill in the blanks, draw a picture. This is what we intended to have going on.
So Jake, I would like a 3-ring binder or multiples made.
All right.
Probably a truck like the 23 should have it. Whoever is the senior fellow on that crew needs to be responsible for that every time, okay? That'll do it, no excuses, please.
That wouldn't be the company.
At the end of it, if you have a work zone that you're gonna be there for a week and it's the same plan, just keep that piece of paper going with you. Always have it available. If you're gonna be there today doing stuff, fill it out, and when the job's done, it's not something you have to keep. You can discard it because you're gone and out of that area. So you don't have to worry about, should I keep it? No. Pretty much that piece of paper is the only thing as far as traffic control that we are responsible for. If we were doing nighttime job or a big project like the interstate or so on, there's more paperwork, but we don't deal with that. And even if we were doing nighttime, you can utilize this sheet to work. All right. The fundamental principles of the reason we're out there, the reason we're in this course learning what we're learning. You want to prioritize your safety and minimize change. People are used to driving up Spear Street without having anything going on, or Wilson Road. They just know that, they've got a cup of coffee, it's 6:30 in the morning, I have to be to work at 7, and there's 4 lanes, 2 going this way, 2 going that way. Today, there was only 1 going that way. Now I gotta sit here while you guys figure, take your own sweet time, blah, 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 so on and so forth. You wanna minimize that. You want people to not even know you were there. So whatever you can do to make things flow smoothly, that's what we're here to learn. You wanna communicate clearly with the drivers, with each other. Whoever the supervisor is on the work zone should eyeball the traffic package every once in a while. Make sure the signs didn't tip over. get twisted, turned, cones knocked over. And in the back of their mind, just kind of notice what are, you know, geez, Mike, you got an awful line of traffic over there, and Bob, you got 2 cars. How come Bob's going and Mike's stopping? You know, just kind of keep an eye open for that kind of thing. Train everyone, that's what we're doing, and maintain good public relations. This is a setup where they have a work zone going. They didn't even utilize flaggers. They got a taper, they got a work zone, and they've got two-way traffic flowing without flaggers, so everybody's happy. They're getting the job done, traffic's flowing.
I want to see 3 cones on that taper.
Communicating clearly, they beat the death out of that, but I guess it's necessary. Good communication between you and the drivers. Should be clearly marked. If you're putting cones out or something, you know, just make sure that they should be able to understand it if you can understand it. The general public doesn't know what you are trying to get them to do. That's why you have to make sure that your cones, barrels, everything is proper.
So should that guy be behind the guardrail?
No, because if you're behind the guardrail, you as an oncoming vehicle, you're not looking over here, you're looking in the line of traffic.
You're referring to his escape route.
Yeah, well, that is a good question, but he can get over the guardrail, I guess. But if he was on the other side, like I said, if he was on the other side of the guardrail, it'd be the same as putting your package on the other side of the guardrail. You're not looking there to see it.
It's condescending.
We just talked about that. If you set up a package and it's just not working, revisit it. There's no harm in that. If you make changes to it, and you've already got that daily plan drawn out, whatever you do to that package, make sure it's indicated on your piece of paper. Because if you set it up this way and then half hour later, go, you know what, we should move that lane over, blah blah blah, and then OSHA says, can I see your piece of paper? How come on your piece of paper cones are over here, but you got them over there? Just make sure you do that. One less thing you need to worry about.
Jake, what defines a work zone?
I can't tell you. I don't know the fines. I can look them up, but what defines
Defines.
a work zone? We're gonna get there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't set up the slides. They beat this stuff to death, so, but yeah, we are getting there. Training everyone, that's what we're doing, good public relations. All right, flagger work zone. Here's a typical setup that you have another piece of paper. Gives you your minimum basic list of what when you leave, you should have that stuff. You should have vests, you should have a package. If you got two-way traffic, then you need twice that. At least 10 cones, because you need 5 for a tape, and then whatever other cones you need for other stuff, and your 2 paddles. Go on. Which is everything we just talked about there. All right. This is a work zone, Adam, to answer your question. The work zone is made up of several different areas, and we're gonna, it breaks it down as we keep going. But basically, when you set up your signs, that's your advanced warning area right there. Those are your signs. Road work ahead, 1-lane traffic if it's pertinent, and flagger ahead if it's pertinent. So that's your where those signs go. That's your advanced warning area. Then you have your transition area, which is your 5-cone taper. 5 cones is from this side to that side. There should be 5 cones. The straight line, that cannot be one of your taper cones. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your but you have to have 5. It's written down, and that's how OSHA nails people, that's what they look for. You know, they're not, in 2 seconds of driving through a zone, they're not looking at everything. They need something quick so they have a reason to pull over. That's usually what they look for, is the 5 cones.
Is there a rule of thumb or a regulation as to the distance of that transition area and how far apart those homes are supposed to be?
We are gonna go over that too? Yes, yep. So you have your sign package, you have your transition area, which gets people out of the regular flow of traffic and into where you want them, and you get your buffer space. This buffer space, again, we're gonna figure out how big it needs to be, but that buffer space is your life area. That's your safety net right there. If something goes wrong, this is the area where it's supposed to go wrong, not where you are. If something happens, this is where it has to happen. Nothing ever gets parked here, no equipment, nothing. This should be a wide open area so that if 85-year-old grandma crashes through these cones and says, oh shit, she's got a place to hit the brakes without you guys getting hurt. And it's exactly what it infers. It's a buffer space, but nothing can go there. If I pull up because Greg's got a question, if Adam wants to talk to us for a minute, you don't use this area.
I was
Nothing.
told that's what that was for a couple of years ago. That was for your other equipment that you're not using because it's still not in your workspace. You need that space for equipment.
I'm not sure who told you that, but
Where are you gonna put your other trucks and your trailers and stuff?
We're gonna put the Vector, come in from the other way?
Or
you're gonna have to,
Buffer, just
Where-
push
if
the
you
buffer
bring
back.
stuff in to work, like your Vector, you just increased your workspace. That Vector is now part of the workspace, so you've got to accommodate for that. You got to accommodate, or put your Vector on the other side, but this is a safety net. I mean, I'm not being confrontational, but I'm just trying to explain to you that's what they want you to understand. This is your safety net. So if you put stuff there,
How long your buffer's gotta be?
we're gonna get there, yep, absolutely. So then you got your workspace, and then you got your downstream or your termination area. Advanced warning, transition area where people start to move out. Your activity area is your buffer and your workspace. And then downstream taper, which again does have to be 5 cones, but it doesn't have to taper. It can be 5 closely spaced cones right up the line. That's where your dump trucks should drive out and so on.
It says exactly what I just said.
And then, and that's a quick, I mean, we're gonna go over each area here real quick, but that's the whole package right there, you know. Stuff going on ahead of you, get in the other lane, you shouldn't be here, and almost gone, and then you're gone. And then on the other side, your advanced warning area, obviously, you want to warn traffic in both directions. Just talked about all that. We have two signs downstairs, 2 different sizes of signs downstairs, usually the 3-footers, 4-footers. The smaller ones we can use here in the city. The bigger ones are for your interstates, your higher speeds. But we can use the smaller ones here in the city. And there's a chart that tells you. So we'll start talking about the advanced warning area. Sign spacing. How far apart should these signs be?
Depending on the speed.
So in your third packet there that I gave you, with the multiple pages on it. If you look on this page right here, all right, your road type, and then A, B, and C. Road type is urban low speed. Urban low speed is defined by MUTCD as 35 miles an hour or slower. That's urban low speed. Urban high speed, 35 miles an hour, or excuse me, 40 miles an hour or faster. All right, rural can be whatever rural is, and freeways we don't necessarily have to worry about. The reason I bring this up, A, B, and C, and there's another. If you look at the next page, you'll see A, B, and C. So it's the gap between the signs. So if we're setting up on a 35 mile an hour road, it's considered urban low speed. You need 100 feet between each sign. Men working ahead, 100 foot, one lane ahead, 100 foot, flagger ahead. As a caveat, and I'll jump ahead for a minute, that flagger sign should never be less than 100 feet from the flagger. I'll make sure I say that right. There should always be, at a minimum, 100 feet between the flagger sign and the flagger. If it's farther out, all right, they have more time to know that there's a flagger there. But you have to have at least 100 foot between the flagger. So if you get too far up, you know, if you start working on Dorset Street, down by the Greers, and next thing you know, you're up by San Remo, you might want to think about bringing that flagger sign up closer to somebody. Just jump in the truck and bring the whole package up if you have to, but at least the flagger sign. Because if you got a flagger sign in front of Greers and you're in front of City Hall now, kind of defeating the purpose. But, so, as far as how far apart those signs have to be in the advanced warning area, that's your 100 foot for urban, 350 for higher.
Do you have to measure that out, or do you just go approximate?
Approximately.
Jake,
Yes?
the daily traffic control plan says that the MUTCD says that the low speed is 40 or lower.
Well, I didn't know that, but I know the guy that taught the class specifically told us that, and that's why I wrote it in my notes, and I bring it up, but I didn't know that.
Thanks. It says it right on the bottom of your control.
I know it's not on the test, but that is a good point, though. It's good to know. As I said, hopefully this June, all this stuff will be revised and that they will have gone through and picked up on that stuff.
Jake, what's the difference in urban and rural? What's the speed for rural? Oh, what's that start at?
Rural could be, Todd, you work with, you got a better brain than I do. Help me out with this. I mean, urban is city, rural is out in the country. What would rural be in South Burlington, like out by Dorset Farms?
Cheese factory.
Would that be considered rural, or?
116 probably.
Yeah, that's probably what I think.
That gets up to 50 miles an hour.
50 miles an hour?
I would guess it would be 50
50?
up the
Okay.
highways.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, cause urban says above 45, so, or
That's a
above
guess.
40. So
40 and
I wonder
higher,
where
yeah.
that capped off and it changed over.
It must, yeah. Good questions, just stuff I've never been asked before and never thought to ask, so those are good questions.
What do you do if you don't have the space to space these signs out 100 feet each?
If you don't have the room, you gotta do the best you can. And like I said, when you were filling out that form, no two packages you ever set up in this city are gonna be the same. And there are some streets where you don't have the luxury of 100 foot. But do the best you can, and truthfully, if the street's that short and the signs are that close, then everything is that close. So a car coming up hopefully would be going slow enough that you could jump on it and you could control the intersection or the street or the zone. So that's your, the important thing here is 50 to 100, remember. 50 to 100 for your tapers. Most of the tapers that you talk about that we will work with in the city that are dealt with in this course are 50 to 100 for your tapers. Is everybody getting a wink there? Like I said, your end taper can be dead-ended with 5 closely spaced cones on the center line. So instead of making a taper, just run them up the center line. And again, that's where, on the other side of your hole, where your dump trucks are exiting or backing into to backfill or so on. The cones that we use are, you know, again, by MUTCD standard, 28-inch minimum. We could use the 18 inches, but I think we use a 28. All right. They even go, the MUTCD tells us, you know, how far that gap is, how far that gap, I mean, 2 to 4 inches for the orange, has to have 2 stripes. The top one has to be 4 to 6 inches. This one has to be 4 inches. They go to some pretty, it can get really stupid, but that's what they, for our purposes, you need at least a 28-inch cone with retroreflective bands. If you don't have the retroreflective bands, you shouldn't be using them, day or night. You just shouldn't be using them. Nobody can ever tell me what this means. Should not be left unattended. When they set up 200 cones on the interstate from exit 10 to 11, is there somebody sitting there watching those cones? I just don't get it. That's your setup. Yeah,
Edit.
Edit. Well, I was just gonna say, that's the, how to set up the sign package. Then we get into the work area, the activity area, which is made up of the buffer space that we talked about and the workspace. The workspace goes without saying, the buffer space is your life net.
And the workspace does include all of your equipment, so on and so forth, correct?
It should,
Well, it does.
yeah, that's your workspace,
So like the
that's
guys are asking if the Vector or if the backhoe,
the
whatever.
backhoe,
is
the
part-
backhoe,
part
yep,
of
that's
the
all part of your
workspace.
workspace, yes,
Workspace is not just the hole in the ground.
correct. Correct. Greg would probably, Jamie, if he's in the room, the operators should have a better idea. In my mind, when you're digging a hole, you could utilize the dirt that you're digging, depending on how, I mean, you guys know better than I, but it seems to me it wouldn't hurt to have if you got a pile of your dirt up somewhere, that would be a good thing to utilize as a buffer. You know what I mean?
I thought that wasn't supposed to be anything in the buffer space.
Again, I'm
Your
not.
pile of
I
dirt's
don't
gonna
know.
be in your work zone, can't be in your buffer.
Can't be? Alright.
I don't like.
Scratch that idea. I just figured, you know, if grandma came through and pulled the Dukes of Hazzard, it'd be really cool if somebody had their cell phone out at that point. But,
Just not a flag.
so it's an empty area to allow recovery of errant vehicles. The workspace, workers, equipment, and materials, that's your workspace. Travel space is this, the travel space is this side on the other, this lane on the other side of your activity area.
What's the activity area?
Your buffer and work zone.
The activity area is the workspace and the buffer space.
And the travel space.
So the buffer space is,
What's that?
so the buffer space is being used in equipment and stuff? If that's a part of the
No.
activity area, or is that just for cornhole?
It's
and-
part of the activity area, but it's not part of the work space. Your workspace is where all your vehicles, material, your buffer space is just an empty space. It's empty. So a vehicle gets out of control, it has a place to regain control. But it's part of what they consider the activity area. Your travel space is where the general public is going to be doing their traveling. It's on the other side of the workspace. it didn't go in like I hoped it would. There is, and I'll get the information and write it down for you, or have a copy made for you in the books. There's mathematical equations and there are standards on how far your buffer has to be in relationship to the width of the road, the speed limit. There's a mathematical equation, and your advanced warning area in the books. If you have a question, you just look it up and it's there. As long as you've got 50 to 100 here, no, I'm sorry, 100 feet between signs, 50 to 100 on your transition area, your taper. Your activity area is your buffer and your work area, and then your termination area is considered another taper, so that's 50 to 100. Those are the key elements to remember. 100 between, 50 to 100, 50 to 100, and then it doesn't ask on the test, but I will look this up for you and get it for you. It's the width of the lane times the speed, the closest speed limit, gives you the length of your,
Jake,
Buffer.
does it make sense if we're out on a big project somewhere in Dorset, Spear Street or something, to put a couple of cones at the line of where your workspace is and your buffer that way?
oh, absolutely, yeah, you should have
That way,
cones. Cones or
whoever
barrels.
goes back the truck into your buffer zone and the OSHA comes along and says, hey, or your buffer, and you're like, oops, well, truck parked in it now.
Well, that's why they have these cones shown. I mean,
No, I think you
You know what I'm
mean
saying, though, across
across
the
the
road,
lane.
kind of make a straight line in between those two zones. So
Oh.
whoever's in that work zone don't.
no, because then they'd
encroach
have
on your
another,
buffer.
then they'd have another, the vehicle would have another area. They'd have another obstacle to hit.
Well, see now in this map, it's showing all of that's the activity area. How come it's not
No,
showing
it's not.
the
No,
buffer?
the buffer's part of the activity.
Right.
Your activity area is from here to
Right.
there.
So you
That's
can
your
have
buffer,
stuff there or no?
that's your work zone.
Okay, no.
The
No,
buffer,
your,
just
your
doesn't show
activity
the
area is
buffer.
both your work zone and your buffer combined.
Combined.
The black box is your work area where you can have your
Right.
stuff.
Right.
This here is just your buffer zone. This is your safety net right here.
And that is determined by speed and width in the formula.
Yeah, in the formula.
Got it? Are we gonna start over?
Well,
Send it.
if you don't do it all the time, you know, it's hard to take in, but that's the meat and potatoes of setting up a work zone right there. You get your sign package, taper in, taper out, and your buffer with your work zone. Planning is just, you know, could be just as simple as, I'll keep using Greg because he's a foreman, you know, saying, Bill, grab me a package, set it up on, and make sure everything's covered. So if it's a two-way, you just need two signs. If it's a four-way intersection, all four need to be marked. Or it could be, if it's gonna be more complex, you know, it could be Greg sitting down with everybody before you even go outside and drawing a picture and saying, this is what I wanna see happen. But some kind of communication between whoever's in charge and the rest of the crew. Make sure you got your drawing done. This is just an example right here, because you're on a curve. The work area, the buffer zone. It's hard to see, and I apologize, but from this line to that line in the curve, that's your activity area, which includes your work zone and your buffer. And truthfully, it looks like your work zone and your buffer is always exactly what your work zone is in most of these drawings. But
Looks like it's supposed to be
50 to 100 on your taper, and whatever, if it's urban, rural, so on.
Does it change anything if it's on a curve?
What's that?
Does anything change if it's on a curve in regards to distances and things?
Distances aren't gonna change. What you wanna have, the thing, the distances aren't gonna change, your flaggers are gonna be, and the flaggers and the communication between them is gonna be the most essential thing. If you wanna put them, if you'd like to have them in a place where they can see each other, but if they can't, you wanna make sure they have radios or some form of communication to be able to talk to each other. That's the important thing, because they're responsible for the traffic that's going down this travel lane. As far as the distances on your package or your activity area, no, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Now, they say they extended the buffer for visibility, but I'm seeing, most of the pictures we've been seeing, the work zone and the buffer zone are pretty much the same area. Another key here is they don't want us using arrow boards, which we don't do anyways. Like I said earlier, each work site's unique. By the book rules won't apply every time. Do the best you can. If OSHA sees you making an effort and you're not cocky and arrogant, I don't know if they're gonna be, but don't let them get you stirred up. You're doing the best you can. That's all you have to do, is the best you can. Basic fundamentals still apply. Communication, common sense, and good judgment. All right. When we set up, I hate this. I don't know why they did that. White and yellow. When we set up a work zone, get away from them slides for a minute. My drawing stinks. I'll give you that ahead of time. So we're going to set up a work zone. You're going to set up your package. This is going to be our work area right here. All right. We've got a water leak. So the first thing you're going to want to do, set up your signs. You want to set your signs up. And what you do is you come across the street. You can set up your signs. You want to set your signs up so that you start with your men working and your one lane, and then your flagger head. And no, they're not to scale. But set up your signs on both sides of the street. Doesn't matter whether you do these first or get your signs set up. Reason being, now what you're going to do is take your flaggers. Once your signs are set up, take your flaggers, get them out there, and have your flagger stop traffic. They're going to stop traffic in both directions. While they've got traffic stopped, you're going to set up your taper. 5. You're not going to have a taper on this side. You're going to do whatever you got to do on this side. Your taper cones. All your cones to block off that area and get everything set up the way you want it, and then let the flaggers take over for traffic. Everybody gets out of the road. So now you set your warning signs up so everybody knows what's coming. Your flaggers get out there legally because you got your sign package up. They stop traffic again legally. You set up your tapers and your cones and everything. Everybody gets out of the way. The flaggers take over as far as traffic control. When you tear this down, it happens just the opposite. Get your flaggers out there, stop traffic, take your stuff down, get the flaggers out of the way, and then come back and take your signs down.
Jake, you got that flagger guy standing basically the way your description is. I know it's not scale, but is there a distance that if that float's got to be 100 feet, is that flagger sign got to be 100 feet from your flagger?
At a minimum.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not, again, it's not to scale, but
No more than 500, no less than 100.
All right.
If you just push the other lane over, can you eliminate the flaggers?
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. If the road's wide enough, you still want to do this where you got the flags, where you set your signs up, put your flaggers there to stop traffic to do that. But yeah, instead of having your cones down the center lane, you just make your taper just a little bit longer between them, and then, yeah, right down the middle. Now you got traffic going in both directions in this lane, and you're working in that one. If it's wide enough, absolutely.
And if you do that, are you then responsible to pick up the flagger ahead signs?
Yes, the flagger ahead sign cannot be displayed if there is not a flagger, so turn it, because you gotta go back.
And you also need the one lane sign, because there's not one lane.
True, yes. Yeah. It's not a bad idea
You just have to put one.
to have the signs out there, but yeah, if you put up a sign and you don't utilize whatever the sign says, a flagger or one lane, after 20 minutes, like if somebody's sitting there with a stopwatch, they got you. They're not gonna, but you've got 20 minutes of dead time before you have to remove a sign.
We have be prepared to stop signs that we use most of the time anyways.
Yep. And that's a good idea.
Is there a distance that this guy is from the activity area?
50 to
Or-
100 feet.
What's that?
50 to 100 feet, because,
Because you have to have.
Because
I
you
know you have-
taper.
Yeah, you have to allow cars to come out.
right, yep. Now, some guys, when they're flagging, they like to take a cone and stick it, set it down so that there's a point of reference for cars. When you bring them up to them, point to the cone, stop right there, kind of thing. That's your personal judgment. It's not,
It's pointless, they don't understand.
yeah. It's not mandated, but I've seen it done. I'm just throwing it out there, so. But the bigger idea here is to make sure that you understand that you set up the sign package in both directions. Your flaggers go out, stop traffic, so that you can set up your package, your internal pack, your cones and stuff safely. And then everybody gets out of the way and the flaggers take over. When you're done, the same thing happens in reverse. Your flaggers stop traffic in both directions, get rid of all your obstacles, i.e. cones, barricades, barrels. Flaggers excuse themselves, and then they come back and then they get the signs. Okay? You guys need a couple minutes? We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So we talked about the zones. We'll go over it again real quick before we take the test, just in case there's any questions. But flagging fundamentals, they want to talk about the flagger himself, he, herself. So Vermont state law, Vermont state dictates 24-inch paddle, retroreflective lettering on it, no ifs, ands, buts about it. METCD says you can use 18 to 24 inch. You can use engineered grade, blah, blah, blah. But Vermont state says it has to be 24 inch and it has to be retroreflective lettering on it, which works in our favor because you need it at nighttime anyway, so.
This says 18 by 18 right here.
Right. Vermont state says.
Which one is it?
Well, then don't get this. It's 24 by 24, he said. I'm trying to memorize this stuff and then you're conflicting.
We're gonna follow a state law, I would assume. So 24, right?
Yes. The sheets are made up for METCD date, and I have to tell you when the state of Vermont says bigger or better by law.
That'd be a 7-foot
mean,
pole
what?
too,
I mean,
right, Jake?
What's that?
7-foot pole.
That's what it says.
Yes. What was the question, Dave? Seriously.
M-E what?
MUTCD.
Stands for?
What's MUTCD?
Annual Uniform Traffic Control Device.
It was on one of the slides.
Or two.
The federal government gives us guidelines. So if anything ever happened, you went to court, you could say, we are following the MUTCD guidelines. States take those guidelines, they can either follow them or they can improve upon them, like anything, like OSHA/VOSHA or any organization out there. All right, so you need a paddle, you need a sign package, cones, two-way radio if you need it, or waving a flag, pen and paper in your pocket, area lighting for night flagging, and a flashlight with a cone on it if you're night flagging. We don't do a lot of night stuff, but we can get that stuff if you need I think at this point, Adam, you can help me out. I know you were trying at one point to make sure everybody was suited with
We're getting there.
class 3.
We haven't gotten all the way, we're getting there.
All right.
We have
Um,
stuff that can be shared.
Yeah.
Pants.
Yeah, two big light fires or big light.
So the flagger's supposed to tell the drivers what actions to take by using the paddle and your standard hand, stop, right, left, come forward, they're just universal, everybody understands hand signals. They're beating us to death. You must be understood. By the way, that used to be the rule. That is no longer the rule. Again, one of those things that everybody went, that costs too much money and I'd have to buy one for everybody. And so the state said, all right. With that, their original intent was that marking distinguished you from the work crew. But again, by law, you're supposed to be set off away from that work crew anyways. You shouldn't be near it. So,
Do we still have ours?
I had them on the back of the door. They're somewhere. We only had one that I know of that was given to me, and that was large.
No, didn't fit you, or me.
So there's the paddle, 6-inch letters. It says minimum of 5 foot, and 24 is better. Ours are reflective because that's what the state of Vermont says. Stop gesture. Where you stand. Flagger should be on the shoulder. So you're stopping traffic. All the traffic comes to stop. And then what I do and what they suggest is you come over here to the center line after traffic is stopped. Why? Because if you stay on that shoulder, there's a chance that other vehicles behind that first one may not see you. Here, you've got a better sight of the line of traffic. They can see you from here. When you release traffic, you're going to want to come back over here and get off the road. But if you can stay here if you want, but depending on the vehicles, not everybody's going to see you. Not everybody's going to see you. Telling people, pointing, slow down. This is stuff that, stuff that we know. With a flag, a 24 by 24 red flag, I'm only going to talk about this a little bit because it's not on the test. You need to know it, that you can use a flag if you have to. But, if you hang the flag down, that's stop. To the right, to the left. And they're not legal anyways, they're for emergency purposes only. As soon as you can get a paddle there, you should have a paddle. So that's the bottom line, you should have a paddle. Put the flag down, use your hand signals. Not really important, so I'm not gonna bother us. 2 flaggers. Controlling open lane on a 2-lane road, both directions of traffic, intersections, special situation. You want 2 flaggers. The 2 flaggers need to have some kind of communication between themselves. It's also important to understand that throughout this whole thing, flaggers can do stop and go. That's it. You cannot direct traffic. So I had some guys helping me the other day at White and Airport, White and Patchen, and I needed to fix a span sign. What I needed them to do was just stand on the corners of the truck and make sure that when the light turned green, traffic went around the truck in the right direction, not into oncoming traffic. What they were trying to do was direct traffic so that it didn't get backed up or anything. Technically, by law, they cannot do that. All you can do is stop and go. If the light says green and you stop traffic, I'm sorry, let me turn that. If the light's red and you tell a car to go anyways, and something happens, you're liable. All you can do is stop and go. If you had, sometimes you'll see if there's a four-way intersection, there'll be a cop directing, or one person directing those flaggers, and the light will be on flash. But if the traffic light's present and functioning, we don't direct traffic. All we do is stop and go. That's more for your liability, if you understand that. One flagger's in charge, the other one's following. Pretty straightforward. If farmer's letting his traffic go, I'm stopping mine. If he turns his paddle around to stop, then I'm letting mine go. That's one way, the other way, the other way, the other way. Using the radio, whatever works for you on that radio, you two who are, if you can't see each other, if it's difficult to see, last car coming through is a red Mitsubishi. Okay, my last one is a U-Haul truck. Just whatever it takes. We don't do pilot cars. We don't do token and flags. That's always kind of funny. So it used to be that you'd stop traffic, and Craig would be in that first car, or the last car through that I'm going to let through. And I'd stop him and I'd say, here, give this to the flagger when you see him, please. I'd give him a token or a flag or something. And the idea is he gives it, he stops at the flagger on the other side, and that flagger now knows that he's the last car coming through. He does the same thing. And the last car coming towards me would stop and hand me the token, and I know that's the last car. But there are some people who don't know how to play the game. So they just keep going. Now we lost our token. I don't know if that's the last car or not.
Cost of their business.
So somebody said, hey, you know what, that's probably not a good idea. We shouldn't do that anymore. Should have visual contact if possible at all times. That's the optimal right there. That's what you want. Flags, hats, whatever works for you two, you work it out. Although, I will back that up for just a minute though. Be careful not to confuse the driver with your hand signals. If I'm telling Willie all good, I don't want that guy in front of me to say, oh, okay, hit the gas and go. Eye contact. Our little Motorola radios look like just like that. When you're out there, backup batteries. Now there are batteries that are in, a little caveat, the batteries that are in ours are rechargeable, but they will die eventually. So if you've got backup batteries, which are in the vending machine, if you're going out, just have them in your pocket. If you don't use them, great. Tape them to the back of the radio or something, but make sure you got some backup if it's going to be an all-dayer. And that's what I was telling you about the flag or the token method. We can fly through this a little bit because we do it all the time. It's just telling you what you already know if you're going to have, and we've already talked about. You can use one flagger. You don't necessarily have to have two. That flagger would stay in the middle of the work zone. Let me back that up. Yeah. Not in the middle of the work zone, because then you're in the hole and they can't see it. Unless you got a really tall paddle.
You're not supposed to be close to it.
So if you have one flagger for this mess that I drew, this is the side that you're working on of the road, and this is your travel lane, and you got in both sides. One flagger can stand right here in front of the work zone, but that's a good opportunity for you to have.
Do you want them on the other side of the road so that they're not part of the work crew?
Well, again, yes, but no. Yes, you want them to be distinguishable, but if you stand here and you stop traffic in that direction, you got guys coming this way, everybody can see you, but then if you stop traffic, if you want to stop this flow of traffic, and you stand here, as these guys go by you, you're getting blocked. So this traffic going this way can't see you because you're on the other side of the cars going through, so you wanna come over here,
That happens the
stop
same,
traffic.
that happens the same way if you're on that side.
Same,
Yeah,
just
that's-
opposite.
If you're there,
You're so smart.
if you're standing there,
Yeah.
and you let traffic go here, when they're going in front of you, this traffic can't see you.
That's why you
It's
go to the
same
other side of the
thing.
street. It's,
Let's just have two wires.
you have to use your best judgment and your common sense, but that's what the book says to do. So I'm not gonna, you're not wrong. Do what works for you as long as it's safe.
Stay in that middle, Bill.
But yes, one person can,
He never did it.
one person can do two-way traffic as long as conditions are right. Like it said again earlier in the screen, no two situations are the same, but if the situations and the controls are all
Job site.
in the right place,
Yeah,
one person can do the job
interfere
safely.
with the workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But that should only be used when it's low speed and low volume.
True.
Side street. Rural.
Short duration, good visibility, yes. Everything it says right there. This says directly across from the workspace, like that. But again, if you're letting, at some point, you're gonna be invisible to the traffic you're stopping. I think. Stand where you can be easily seen by drivers from both directions.
so like
One
not in
thing,
the shade.
yeah, I was gonna just say that. One thing that this picture kinda doesn't show you, but you should be aware of, thank you, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't be in the shadow if you can help it, because you're in the shadow, they're not gonna see you. Beating the dead horse, eye contact. Flagging intersections, UTO is uniformed traffic officer, is a police officer, which I just explained to you. You're gonna want a police officer to choreograph things, or you should have one, if the light's on flash, so that you don't have traffic control. You can have one person flagger choreographing the other, Dave, let your traffic go, everybody else stop. Okay, Dave, stop. Greg, let your traffic go, everybody else stop, one person doing that for a four-way. Your flaggers need to be 50 to 100 feet in from or out from the intersection, I should say. You can only stop and release, not direct. So that's a picture explaining that. A good thing this picture shows is flagging, flag package in all four directions. So all four directions, if you've got a road with four directions and you're working in that area, all four areas, have to be marked. Is there anything wrong with that?
There's a flagger at both stop signs.
There's already a stop sign.
Yep.
Plainsboro?
Everything needs to be, again, everything, all your intersections need to be controlled. Working on sides, major drives. Working with more than two flaggers, which again, we just talked about. Special situations, heavy traffic. Equal turns, don't let it back up too far in one direction or the other. We should make that a practice anyways. Where it becomes a problem, nothing's gonna come right to my mind, but by having some traffic back up, you're blocking other throughways from functioning. You could create quite a mess. if you don't, just try and practice having everything equal. Don't let it stop on a truck. Don't stop traffic on railroad tracks. Railroad tracks. Special situation on haul roads we don't do. Nighttime operations. The big thing on nighttime operations, you're gonna do the same exact thing you do during the daytime, except notice how the reflective is working.
Except for the guy in the back of the truck.
Your flagger has to be lit
None of
up.
them have class 3 on.
What's that?
None of them have
Class 3.
class 3.
Right, and this is a 2009 presentation, so thank you for pointing that out. You're absolutely right. That's why I said come June, I'm gonna have things that are a little more up to date, hopefully. Your flagger has to be lit up, and I'm not talking about alcohol or drugs. And a flashlight doesn't work. There needs to be some kind of lighting, so when I'm driving down the road, I know that there is a person standing there, regardless of the retroreflective. So, you know, whether it's a street light or a spotlight, or not a street light, but a good bright light above or from the side, somehow not blinding traffic, but illuminating the flagger.
Street light's no good?
I'm sorry?
The street light's no good?
It's just not bright enough. It's just not bright enough. They don't get into specific luminaires. It just says they need to be illuminated, and it's not. Traffic signs, your packages. Let me read this correctly. It's one of those things where they play games with the wording. And I want to make sure I get it right, and you get it right. Work zone traffic control devices. Nope, that's not the one. Ah, there you go. All traffic control signs need to be retro-reflective and or illuminated. Traffic control signs, signs that tell you which direction to go. They need to be retroreflective or illuminated. So, road work ahead, one lane, flagger ahead, those aren't retroreflective, those aren't traffic direction signs. If you have detour signs, arrows, your cones, your delineators,
A lane change.
lane change have to be retroreflective and or illuminated.
Is it and or and?
And or, are you saying?
And or.
One or the other.
This, there is a test that exists where the question says all signs must be, and that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. All devices, so again, your cones, your delineators, your barrels, your detour signs, your devices for traffic control shall be, so there shall be retroreflective or illuminated, having its own light source. But that's not your sign package. That's not, you know, that kind of stuff. They want to make that differential.
That doesn't make any differentiation, all it says is devices.
Well, a device is a cone or a barrel or things that you're using to move traffic. That's a device. Arrow boards, I know.
I think they're getting into some pretty funky semantics there.
Oh, you have no idea.
Oh, yeah, I do.
When I took this course in Florida for IMSA, they get into, when you see the arrow boards on the interstate, or like Digger was pointing out, they had them on Wilson Road at one point. The MUTCD tells you how many lights have to be used to make up an arrow, how big that light has to be, what color it has to be, I mean, they get really kind of rectal. Floodlights to illuminate the flagger. May also be used to light other areas as needed, but you can't glare, you can't blind if the drivers, obviously.
Red writing say, Jake?
What's that?
What did that red writing say on
That's a good question. I didn't even see it because it's red.
Street.
Oh, street lights are not allowed. Street lights and headlights are not sufficient. Good eyes.
Somebody will get something.
Yeah, red on red, that's like white on yellow.
that? Yeah. This looks red on red.
He was taking different drugs than we were, though. Devices that help improve visibility, retroreflective vehicle markings, which we have on like a lot of the dump trucks and so on anyways. Emergency flashers or four-ways, strobes, rotating beacons. Your garment, flagger visibility, we don't get into wristlets and stuff, as long as you've got the sleeves and the pants, and again, like, I apologize, it's 2009, this presentation. Flashlight with a cone on it, that, we had some, if I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't we have that or not?
We did somewhere, I don't know where they're at.
Yeah. We don't use them a lot, so, tried to, there's a big black case that Dwayne put together, big black box downstairs that had the spotlights, and I know the painters used them, which is great because it was there for them. But it's got the spotlights and the cords and your generators. That's, if you're going out on a night job, that's what you want to take with you. And just be slow, careful, safe, and efficient when you're doing nighttime. All right. Some things that are not in the slideshow. Talked about the paddle. I don't know why it's not even on the test, but every year I go through it and tell everybody, when you put a barrel out, can you use a sandbag on the barrel to keep it in place?
No,
Why?
it's a road hazard.
Right. If it in Vermont this time of year, or, a month ago, if it became solid, it would freeze. Car hits it, flies up in the air, comes down, hits the windshield. It's just not good. That's why we get the tires on the bottom. There's always been a question about short duration work on the side of the road. Do I need a package? According to the book, if it takes you longer to set up the package than it does to get the work done, there are situations where you don't need a full package. Case in point, Dorset Street. When I get called out to change a burned out light, a red light at the Blue Mall, by the time I get 3 signs set up in both directions and set my truck up, get my harness on, all that stuff, get up in the air, it takes maybe 2 minutes to change that bulb because it's 4 screws, but it takes me 20 minutes to set up the whole package and tear it down. By law, as long as I got the strobes on and I'm only there for, I'll get this right, for I believe it's like a half hour. But I don't want to give you the right information. Long story short, you don't have to have the package set up. You still have to be safe. You still have to have your strobes on. 4 ways don't count.
Oh, just started, really.
But you can't, oh, here we go. I wrote it down. And clearly I forgot it. Let's just say 20 minutes, all right? 20 minutes to a half an hour. If you're doing work 20 minutes to a half an hour, on the side of the road, and it's gonna take you that long, oh, here you go, I'm sorry. Right there. Okay, no, short-term stationary is daytime work that occupies a location for more than an hour within a single daylight period. Oh, that's short, no, I'm sorry. Short duration. Short duration is work that occupies a location up to 1 hour. So if you're gonna be there for up to 1 hour, or you've got mobile work, like when we're doing snow removal, and you got the sign, all right, that's moving intermittently or continuously, you don't need to have a package set up. You can have appropriately colored or marked vehicles with high intensity, rotating, flashing, oscillating, or strobe lights that may be used in place of signs, channeling devices for short duration or mobile operations. But, that being said, by the letter of law, we're fine. What Justin would like is to have a package up to cover our butt for liability purposes, to work with the public, because those are the people that get upset when we're out there. If it's gonna take you longer to set up a package than it is to get the work done, and it's a short duration, or it's mobile, legally, you can do it, but Justin would like to see us using at all times, whenever possible.